The foundation of human understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you have begun to practice this exercise, much of what you see and hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the foundation of human understanding, here is Roy Masters.
Hello, welcome once again. My name is Roy Masters, and I hope we're going to have an interesting discussion this evening. I'm going to open up the floor for all sorts of questions, and I thought I would talk about meaning, the meaning of human existence, hope and despair, but I don't know how far we can take that for at least 5 sessions. I think that's a bit much. How about health? What causes disease? And we can take it that far if you like. Are there any questions to begin with? I know I spend a lot of time spouting off and laying foundations for questions. Well, if you have a question, the gentleman in the back has a question, but he needs to come forward. I don't think they've been schooled in the rules of the game. So if you have a question, please stand up, and I'll be happy to. The gentleman a few minutes ago was talking about his father, right? Go ahead. Go ahead. Oh, there he is. Okay, we'll take that gentleman right there. All right.
Roy,
Saved by the gong.
Roy, in a short minute or less, can you define God for us?
No.
You can't.
End of question.
Okay.
No, you can stand there if you want to. Yeah, I think God defines us. We see by His light, but you cannot see Him. And no one has ever known Him, well, maybe perhaps His Son, but no one has ever seen Him. And we try to be Him. We try to act like we think He is. But I think the vessel, as the scripture says, the clay vessel cannot know the maker, the potter. There's no way in the world, but we are known by Him. We are aware that He exists, and we know that He exists by virtue of conscience. And that's the only way we know God, is by virtue of an ever-present conscience. Okay? What was that again? Someone said something just now? Okay, go ahead.
Well, with reference to what we were talking before about resentment against God, getting mad at God and hating God, I wanted to know how you felt about associating our resentment towards our earthly father towards God.
In other words, God gets tainted with the way we feel towards our Father.
Yes.
It's always the case.
And I was thinking, is there any way not to associate that?
Well, it's to realize
that
yes, you have to break down the association, because the way you feel about your father is the way you feel about God, and that's the trick of the excuse me putting it this way, but the damnable trick of the spirit of the woman. You have a witchy, mean mother, and she turns you.
She's very loving and kind.
But if you do have a witchy mother, she generally turns the witchiness in her, turns the male spirit against the father, the male child against their father, so that from that point on through his life, he sees God as he sees his father, and he's cut off from God. He's cut off from his own manhood, and becomes very much dependent upon the love of a woman, the support of a woman, because when a man's soul is turned against his father and turned against God at the same time, he rejects God and accepts the spirit of the woman, and then now the spirit of the woman or his mother becomes God.
Well, I've avoided that so far, but I've often wondered about how I would overcome this resentment, and I read something very good recently in a book entitled Courage by Edwin Lewis Cole. He talked about this principle about releasing our sins. How do you spell release? is through forgiveness, forgiving your
of course,
parents
I understand
for
that.
this sin. Otherwise, it'll be perpetuated.
But you asked me the question you knew the answer to.
No, that just came up on the side.
Yeah, but that's the answer.
All right.
In other words, you forgive your father, and perhaps realize that the driving force to hate your father and to hate God has come from the spirit of your mother. See, there's something in a woman that hates man and God. Ever since the Garden of Eden story, if the Garden of Eden story is true, and that spirit has come down from one generation to another, you will find that very despicable, hateful spirit in a woman, for men and God. And something in that same something wants to be God itself. Therefore, it has no tolerance for the innocence of a man, the wisdom of a man, and the strength of a man. You see? And it turns my wife used to do it, turn her children against me, to get control and to project herself into her children, so the self in her would love and admire her, and she would be the center of the family. She'd be the power. She'd be like the man with her God, like the man should be with his, you see.
But in certain instances, can't the man be unloving and unkind, a very unbearable sort of fellow?
But yes, he's made that way. But see, men are not born cruel, heartless, unkind, unloving, violent, murderous. They are made that way by who? Not by the woman, but by the spirit that the woman herself is subject to. Try to understand that man is in a free fall. The man is a fallen man. He's not a free moral agent. He's a free immoral agent. But he's inherited a condition of subjectivity to the authoritarian rule of the woman. Now, there are many women libbers who say that this is a man's world. But this is not a man's world we live in. This is a woman's world. This is the spirit. Even though a woman is beaten into the ground and beaten into a pulp, she's created the creature that does that to her, quite unconscious. There's a certain power trip she gets from creating a man and making him into a beast, because she's made him into a beast. She's Frankenstein. There's a certain... See? She's created this monster, and then she enjoys hating it, and she enjoys judging it.
Because she feels superior.
Where's this lady here? Yeah?
Well, I was going to say, because that makes her feel superior.
There's something about that the ability to change a man either for the good or for the bad, right?
It makes you, and then you more don't have to look at what you are.
Exactly.
Just what he isn't,
That's right.
sort of.
Or what he is.
I
He's-
wanted to ask you, it's about my mother. Because it's almost as if, now that I look at my father and mother, what they didn't give me, and I don't hate them for it anymore, I understand, because I
Right.
look back at what they didn't get, and I understand. And my mother will still get in fights with me, and then I'll say, but she'll be screaming at me, trying to upset me. And she'll say, you do hate me, and I say, no, I don't.
She
And
needs you to hate her.
she can't.
The spirit of that woman
Just talking about it, though, gives my
gives you
heart,
spilkies, doesn't it?
my heart races. Does that mean that I do hate her? Because I don't
Well,
want to hate her.
it's striking a chord. See, I'm glad it's good to talk it out, because it's all this has been suppressed and smoothed over. It's very important to talk it out, so that you can see, it's like, talking things out is like a magician pulling silk handkerchiefs out of a hat. The more he pulls, the more the silk, it never seems to be end of the hook. And same thing with you, the more you let things come out. Your subconscious mind is a Tower of Babel. Every time you react and suppress and react and suppress and react and suppress, and you think about it and it hatches out, and that hatches out something else, you go round and round and thinking and thinking and thinking. Every time something upsets you, the scenes grow in your mind endlessly. Your executioner, your lover, fantasies. If she says that to me, I'm going to say this to her. You remember the things that hurt you. Then you see yourself saying something back to those people that hurt you, but you never say it, and it makes you angrier and angrier. And there's a big cauldron of suppressed passions and desires and strange feelings down there. Your problem is repression. You've got to speak it up. Get it out.
As she's screeching at me, it's like I see
A monster.
It's not that
not
isn't
her.
the real her, and I see that, and it helps me not to hate her.
That is Perfect. Did you hear what she said? I've said that before. She sees that when a mother goes, with her meanness, she sees that's not the real her. That's her, the real her has been slain, hasn't it? Maybe when she was a child. Your mother wasn't always a monster. But you know, but when you grow up, your children might say the same thing about you. You weren't always. You were a little child. But that mother can get inside you and be you. But coming back to the point that I was making, there's something in your mother that isn't her, that's being terrifying. It's a terrorist. And it wants to terrify you. It's cruel. It's crazy. And its sole purpose is what? To make you resentful. To terrify you into submission. Because then, once you've been terrified into submission, you are made out of what she is. And you have sympathy and love for her.
It's almost as if my mother sits, my real mother, and then there's that thing.
Right.
And then there's me.
Right.
And that thing doesn't want us to really get together.
That's correct. That's why you have to learn to forgive your mother and not resent her while she's doing it.
What my question is, I don't feel that I do resent her, but then even when I'm talking to you about it, why does my heart race?
It's true, you have. You either still do, or the thought of her as a result of having resented her in the past triggers a response.
That's what I'm confused about.
Yes, because
Am I lying to myself? Am I trying to be a
not
phony?
necessary, but you can tell if you resent her. Not so much right this minute, but you can tell if you resent her the next time this animal comes out of her, and that's the moment when you you nip it in the bud. You see the resentment rising. Otherwise, the resentment turns into fear. It turns into guilt. It turns into diseases. It turns into asthma. It turns into leukemia. It turns into it causes your immune system to run down. And then very often when you find yourself sick from a result and crazy as a result of your mother's her own craziness, then
I'm sorry, I mean,
well, often when it was a result of having been destroyed and debilitated mentally, emotionally, and physically, you often find her running after you, trying to help you, trying to save you, feeling sorry for you, giving you love and compassion, giving you all the love and compassion that should have been there instead of rah. See? I accused my wife the other day. I said, Anne, I said, you have a phony love. She says, that's my nature. I'm bubbly. She is. And my wife is very bubbly and vivacious, and personality-wise, she's got everything going for her. Smiles, friendly. I said, except one thing. She does that after she sticks me with a knife. Psychologically. She'll confuse me, or try to confuse me, try to upset me, and then act like nothing's happened. See? Well, and then she expects me to be a friend of that, and I can't. And if it doesn't work, she gets upset again, trying to make me upset, because she wants to, something in her wants to upset me. Because if I get upset, something of her goes into me from her, and then that something in me is made out of that experience. Now I begin to need that love. See, what I need the love. I'll begin to need the love of what created me.
I do that very thing to my husband.
Do you do that? Is that
This is my husband.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
The women all do that.
But the difference
Most
is
of them
now, and I don't know if it's a good difference or not, but as I'm doing it,
You stop yourself.
I see myself.
You
doing
see
it,
yourself
as though I see a different person.
Right. Do you see what your wife does, though? There's something in her that wants to destroy you, and when no sooner has it's been destroyed by your hate of it, that she starts to love it. Oh, dear.
Yeah, she don't, not in the middle, she don't see
My
it.
wife will
She's
give me, I can see my wife giving me love when when I fall down with a heart attack. Then she'll be sitting by my bedside and stroking my hand.
Why do we do that?
Am I right? Am I right, ladies? You all like, you all. That's exactly right. In other words, it's something in me that now needs her support, her creative healing, her restorative love. But if I ever take that love, I'm restored more in her, I'm made more out of what's in her. See? To become, well, to lose my masculinity. See?
Those that leads right into the question that I wanted to ask. My husband and I have been working on my willfulness, and we talked to you about it last week. And the cycle that we kind of figured out together by me explaining to him the reactions that I have to things is that it starts out with being heard about something. The female sees something or does something
But,
that she thinks is good, and so she shares it, and then if it's not accepted in the proper way or to make her feel as though she's accomplished something, then that hurt turns to anger, and that anger gives you a feeling of power. Like what I said, sometimes I eat meat and it feels like you're tearing the flesh of whatever it was or whoever it was that hurt
Your husband's body.
Well, not always him, more the people outside our home than with him. We have a fairly good relationship.
But your question isn't clear yet.
Okay, you said on one of your tapes that you shouldn't suppress the initial anger. You shouldn't try to suppress anger. But that's where I found that I start to lose the control, because if I express the anger that I feel at being hurt,
no,
the power comes up, and then I want to take it even farther than that. How do you stop it once
See,
you've
the thing is
expressed the
that
initial
you have
anger?
you have to see the reason for your anger.
Mm-hmm.
See, for example, my wife wants me to love her. My wife wants me to see her in a perfect light. Therefore, she puts me on, she's nice to me, and she caters to my ego, right? All right, now, I don't like that. I know the game she's playing. She wants me to worship her. So therefore, she first worships me to make me fall. Because if I accept that love, I will become dependent on that love for who I am. See, and I'll never be a man. But I'll now become dependent on performing for her, for that love, in order to have any love at all, and any existence as me. That me would come out of her love. After all, man is created out of God's love. I don't want to be created out of a woman's love. Is that right? What kind of a man am I now? When she sees, now make a point. When she's typical woman, so that's she's all women. So I'm not tearing it apart on the. I'm all men. She's all women. This is the same problem that all men and women have with each other. So this is the game that's being played, the Adam and Eve syndrome. You see. So when I don't give her back the love, after all, she's made me feel like a king. Why don't I appreciate her for that? Nothing comes back. I don't give her appreciation. I won't even buy her an anniversary present, a birthday present. Well, she resents that. But then out of that resentment comes guilt. But how does she deal with guilt? Does she look at the foolishness of her relationship with me, trying to pull me down, knock me down, and then build me up, or build me up to knock me down? Does she look at that, the power trip she's on? She wants to be appreciated. She wants to be accepted. She wants to be loved. She wants to be the center. Something in her wants to be number one. She doesn't like being number two. She's undermining my authority by playing these little games, but I'm too smart for that. I'm too centered for that. And I love her more than that to allow her to do that to me. See? I'm not an advantage taker. I don't have those weaknesses and needs anymore, you see. So what she does is that when she sees that I don't respond to that and I don't give her back that love which her ego craves through my being spoiled, see, to play into that, she becomes resentful. And that's the reason, but she has no reason to be resentful. My wife's been resentful for years because I won't play the game. But then when she's resentful, she'll recover for a little while, and out of that recovering process is the anger energy, is the compensation for guilt, being nice all over again. She's nicer next week than she was last week. She does everything for me, caters, bows and scrape, and she gives me a cup of tea. She walks away feeling like a waiter. She's done a very important event. She's made me feel important, therefore she feels important, making me feel important. She's made me the king, but she's the king maker. She's made me the boss, but she's greater than the boss. She's the boss maker. Follow that? And you can see her puff up. She's on this little trip. And I'm trying to wake her up from that. I don't want her to play that game. I can't fall into it. If I fall into it, all she'll do is hate me for it. See? She won't be happy with the love, even if I give her the love. It's not the pure love. What I'm giving her is the pure love, but she doesn't see it that way for a while. So she becomes resentful. Now the reason why she's resentful is because her ego feels like I ought to love her because she loves me. But she hasn't loved me. She's seducing me. She doesn't realize she's trying to make me fall. So therefore she's frustrated because I don't return her love, and I'm not going to. The kindest thing I can do for her is not return that love, because what she's giving me isn't love. And if I give her back the love she wants, that wouldn't be love either. But she'd be ruined by the love that I give her back, but she'd be frustrated with it if she got it. But she's upset without it. You can't make her happy, don't you see? Most husbands find themselves in relationships with wives. They scratch their head. What does this woman want? He buys her a Mercedes, he buys her a fur coat, but she's not happy. She's bitchier than ever. What are you nodding your head for? You're supposed to be holding the microphone. Yeah.
I've been through the same game, Roy, and like one part of it, you're sort of mentioning it, but to put it a little more clearly, you talk about, like you started out by talking about this hurt that like triggers the resentment. And what I hear, even as you're talking about it, is, see, you're trying to justify that hurt. As you were speaking about it, you were trying so hard to make it sound as if it was legitimate. Like,
me?
No, she was. You say you do something positive and he doesn't appreciate it.
Right.
But what I see so clearly is the hurt isn't legitimate. It's like, but that's what's defended. It's the basis for the resentment.
That is it, my friend.
But if you try to explain to the one doing it to you, in this case my mom.
They can't hear you.
I try to explain the hurt isn't legitimate. That's defended to the death. It's like, because that's where the resentment comes from. And you're just trying to point out, no, see, what you think you're being deprived of is something that's not good for you. Like you're talking in this case, you don't return the worship. But there's something in her that refuses to see that. It's like, at all costs, it defends the hurt. And it's like, it's so hard to give up the resentment until they're willing to give up the hurt.
Listen, I've been married for 35 years. This afternoon, driving in the car, I thought I saw a glimmer of hope. There's something that holds out to the end and tries you and tries you. And if I've been an ordinary man, I've been dead 5 times over. See? But I, in a sense, I'm loyal to my wife, and I know that I have the wisdom to know that this is the Adam and Eve thing, that for the one sin, Adam, how can I say this? Women are so unforgiving.
That's true.
You see, Adam only made one sin. I probably did more than one. I failed a few times with her, see. But that sin, my weakness in accepting love, because that's how you fall in love, isn't that right? And they expect that fantasy to continue, and you wake up and they hate you, see, for it. And you see, now you're awake. She's got egg on her face, and that ego that has come up through that experience and established itself in there through your weakness doesn't like to let go in a hurry. So now you have to prove yourself. Well, you don't have to prove yourself with words. I mean, you have to go through a life of hell with a woman. This is marriage, gentlemen. You've got something to look forward to, and this is what you're going to get. What you think you're going to get is not what you're going to get. What you see is not what you're going to get. You're going to go through a life because you're going to find yourself dealing with the dark side of that woman. And there's something that sort of thrives on your downfall and is threatened by your awakening, even though it needs the awakening. And you have to stand there as pretty as you please, and as strong as you, never flinching, never being resentful, never being angry, never being the opportunist that accepts that love, never being confused because never doubting yourself in this matter when you don't give the love what she wants, never being manipulative, never being motivated. You have to stand there day in, day out, year out, because that is the love that every woman needs, the love of a father to correct the naughty little child. That's what she needs. She needs to be corrected from her fallen state. And that is love, not mutual worship. I've been giving my wife love for years, but she never saw it. Only recently, she's always said yes. She knew it, but she was also against it. She knew it, but she was against it. Something in her wouldn't let her go. Something in her possessed her mind and wouldn't let her see, and continued testing, teasing, aggravating, upsetting, being mean one minute, nice the next. It continued, and I had to learn to not respond, to always stay strong, never be angry when she's upset, stay calm, never respond to the game of being nice and being friendly like nothing happened, never being upset, so I needed the comfort of what made me upset, you see? Never changing to need her love, that form of love. Always standing a little aloof, always a little aloof in another world, saying, hey, I'm not coming to you, across to your world, you have to come across to mine. That's what love is all about, gentlemen. And if you think of it, if you're going to get married and think it's going to be some sex heaven, then good luck. Okay? Well, we are running out of time, and the program has started off on the man-woman relationship again, because what else is there, right? I mean, what is the meaning and purpose of life? It's found through the man-woman relationship, or lost through it, one of the two. So therefore, I think we better continue exploring it, because we can come to other subjects along the way. We can branch off about meaning and purpose and depression and despair, which I originally started out to talk about this evening. I have a radio program in Los Angeles if you want to tune in to hear it. It's 870 on the dial, KIEV, at 9 o'clock in the morning. Why don't you join me then? And of course, for the remainder of these programs, I have given my resignation. We'll be off the air in about a month, but your letters can save it. But I've sent the letter into the station and terminated our contract, but we still have a month to go, so please support our program. Thanks for listening, and join us tomorrow night. Welcome once again to the program, and my name is Roy Masters. We are hot on the subject of man-woman relationship. I would have liked to start off on a more scientific, psychological, or philosophical approach. I had intended to talk about hope and despair and the meaning of existence, but as you have noticed, if you were watching our last segment, the whole thing started off in the man-woman relationship. Why? Because that's all there is. Man is fixated, fascinated with women, and women are fixated on men, and they destroy one another. They're totally involved in a process they think of as love, but it's a mutual destruction. It's love-hate relationship. And they destroy one another, and so that at the end of their life, they're both just wrecks, just shells of their former existence, and have been given so much energy in hating and loving and loving and hating, and being totally involved with one another completely, that they even become one another. The man becomes the woman assumes the role of a man, and it seems like they've changed sides, changed identities, and in the process, something's lost, something that could lie beyond, some wonderful adventure, if they could have resolved whatever problem they have between them. A destiny awaits them. Death by an ancient legacy, an ancient something, a relationship which passes for love, and it is not, because you can see the state of the country, the deterioration of the morals, the fabric, the conscience, the souls, the nature of men and women, child abuse, pornography, violence, rape. You know, everybody's going to get raped and murdered and abused, violated in some form before they die here in this country. We're all going to get it from somebody, from one another. I mean, this was not like that 35 years ago, 50 years ago. This was, you could walk in the street. You could send your kid to the grocery store. You can't do it now. Some cannibal's going to eat him. The chicken hawks are waiting. And if your chicken hawks don't do it, you do it to your own children. See? Something's gone wrong, and something's gone wrong. Another reality has appeared in the electricity between men and women. Another reality has appeared something's wrong, and we're going to try to work that out as best we can on this program. Now, to continue from our last conversation.
You might have answered, in that last statement, you might have answered a little bit of my question, but I've met a lot of nice girls, and I've met a lot of monsters. And I've also met...
Well, you marry one of those nice girls.
I've never married.
Yeah.
Never married. But I've also met terrible, terrible business men, you know, as business associates, and just as bad and as deceitful as women.
Listen, I'm not going to argue that men are worse than women.
Mm-hmm.
It's only because when men become women, they become better women than women are.
So in other words, the woman, it's actually...
I think you understand that, don't you? You know, if a woman's rotten, then a man hates his mother and becomes his mother and has his mother's nature in him.
I mean, there's a lot of deceitful men. I mean, hundreds
yes,
and thousands. And
but
hundreds.
it's not the nature... Look, try to understand this. It's not the nature of a man to be deceitful. It's not the nature of a man to be dishonest. It is not the nature of a man to be violent. It is not the nature of a man to be an animal and to ravage a woman and to beat her up. That is not his true nature. This is something that's acquired after he was born. And how did he acquire it? Try to understand this. This is I say this, I'm going to say it again, like I said it 1,000 times before. It's the failing of the father. And what is a failing of a father? When your father wasn't a man, what was it that he'd fallen from? Why did he fall? It's something called pride. The scripture says pride goes before the fall. It means it precedes failing. And there's the haughty spirit before destruction, meaning, well, you keep rationalizing everything you do. Once you fall, you defend your position. Once a man falls for a woman, he falls from what love is all about. And he falls in love, but he falls from what love is all about. A man must love what's right in his heart first. If he doesn't love what's right in his heart first, he cannot love a woman with true love. He is obsessed with her. That's the difference. And he's obsessed because he doesn't like to admit, once he's fallen from love, to be prideful. He doesn't want to lose his pride. He wants to hang on to that. He wants to try to complete that pridefulness. And therefore he relates to a woman, a supportive woman, in such a way that that love supports the pride in him, but it also creates the beast. It evolves the beast, because that's what, when a man falls from being sensible, he becomes sensual. A man has two sides of his nature. He has a sensual side, earth side, animal. He has a spiritual, sensible. And now the earth side corresponds to the earth. The soul of man corresponds to that which created heaven and earth and him, to be subject, and to make nature subject to him, even as the woman is subject to the man who's subject to the Creator, a divine order. It's called love. And as long as man does not aspire to be prideful, he doesn't need the support of a woman. Or when he's coming out of pride, searching for meaning, searching for truth again, having suffered under the tutelage and love of a female, and encouraging her power for his illusions, like the addict encourages the pusher to give him illusions, but gives the addict the pusher power, doesn't it? The addict gives the pusher power to keep his sensibilities dumb, so he thinks he's something he's not. And the more he gets fixed, the worse he becomes, the less he wants to see it, the more he needs the pusher to fix him. Same with a man, exactly. People say, are you saying that men are like addicts? Yes, if there's something wrong with a relationship between a man and a woman, one must consider what I said. There could be something right with a man and a woman. But I'm saying what goes wrong is when man wants to play God. And when he plays God, he's in rebellion against his own manhood. And a woman helps a man to rebel against true manhood. See? She helps him to rebel against the power and helps him to think he is the power. Now the woman actually is the power, because like the addict is not the power, but the pusher is the power. The one who fixes is the power, right? And the less you want to face yourself, the more you give the pusher the money, the emotional energy, in the case of a man and woman. You give him the power to make you think you're something you're not. And this slowly this awakens this sin, this trauma, this continued rebellion, which what love is all about. That's what man needs love for, because he feels the pain of conflict, soothed by the seductive love of the lie of a woman's love. It's lies. Men need lies, see? So therefore, each trauma, each rejection of reality to be his own reality in his mind, awakens the sensual. The senses open up from the outside, the sexual and the sensual. So he actually devolves and becomes an animal, more of an animal that thinks it's a man. See? But there's a conflict between more of an animal that thinks it's a man, because no sooner the morning after the night before, conscience pursues him and makes him self-conscious. How does he deal with it? He goes back to the woman to seek that fix of support to help his rebellion against conscience. So I think I actually forgot the point that I was trying to make. It was good, wasn't it? What was the point I was trying to make? Anybody remember it? What was it?
I started off the question with the man.
Stand up, please.
Yes.
But do you remember the point? I know I was trying to lead to a point, and it was
That there were bad men too.
the bad.
When a man becomes sensual like a female, he becomes even worse than a female.
Yes, but how did I get off on that tangent?
Because he said he had met good women and he had met monsters, but he had met men that were just as bad and just as monstrous.
Yes,
as
well,
the
now
women
that's
were.
now I've laid the foundation for that point of view. Now you can see that the nature of man originally was like God, godly, kind, the kind of qualities you'd kind of want to expect from a father that you never had. You kind of know what a man is supposed to be, but he isn't. And women hate men. They hate their fathers, they hate their husbands for not having that love for them, to understand not to give in to their natures. See? But men do give in to natures because they need to give in to, they need the fix. So you've got to give in to the pusher if he's going to fix you. Is that right? So that women know that when men give into the love of a woman, they don't love them. That men don't love them. They know that just like the pusher knows when the addict comes for the fix, he has no power, no love, and all that pusher can have is contempt for that little weasel, right? And that's what women feel when men come to a woman for supportive love to help them rebel against their conscience, to dull their conscience with a woman's love, because it makes a monster out of a woman. But at the same time, because man is made as the extension of love, whether it's good or evil. If a man is the extension of God's love and has fidelity with God, then he is good. But once that fidelity is broken, the bond is broken, a bond is set up with the woman. Now he becomes the extension of a woman's love. And now he begins to take on the violence that's in her, because all of the hell and all the horror is coming up through the woman into the man. It comes up right through her. It used to be that the jails were full of men and very few women, which leads us to the idea originally, a long time ago, that women were saints. But what you don't see in the relationship is that men draw up something from a woman to complete his idea of deity, his idea that he's God. It's called pridefulness, and this love is not coming from heaven, but coming from hell. And he's drawing up the love out of the woman to complete his pride. But his pride is a replica of hell, not heaven. It's carrying with it all kinds of manner of violence and wickedness.
It's almost like a perpetuation of the female revenge of Eve, because when Adam should have corrected her, he didn't, and then when God tried to correct him, he blamed her, so she felt betrayed.
Yeah, but let's go on to the next call. Excuse me, the next call. This gentleman's been standing here patiently so long. I appreciate you waiting.
You were leading right into what I was going to ask, just something very basic, which has helped me a lot with your insight into hypnosis and whatnot, is just compulsion, to understand compulsion a little bit better.
Compulsion for what?
Just, a compulsion for anything, really, for a woman for food, for distraction. I wonder how, maybe if you explain how it came into the human race, that would explain some.
I just did.
Okay.
See, because you see, all compulsion starts with women. Because it's women who are used. And it's not saying it's woman's fault now. Understand what I'm saying. It isn't woman's fault. But, for instance, if you see cocaine, a man sees powder lying there. The powder is just dead. It's just powder. It's chemicals. And how comes the man has, this chemical has so much power over this man's mind? It's because it's the power that he gives this chemical. And how does a woman have so much power over a man? You women know that you do, don't you? It's because men give the woman the power. You give your tyrant the power to help you rebel against. You think your tyrant is your friend, because they seem to assist you in rebelling, helping you to rebel against your conscience. Because you can only be prideful if you put the light out. If you put the light of your conscience out, you need assistance. You need a co-conspirator. So you need the support of a woman. That's where it begins. The man-woman relationship. Woman is a living, breathing, well, she is a helpmate. But she looks like a friend, but she ends up as a tyrant. You see, because she looks like a friend. She looks like a lover, but she's really a betrayer, because she helps a man betray his first cause. For the ultimate motive for that is to dominate him, to take him away from God, to be his God. Don't you see that? And so all lovers in that respect, lovers who are supportive, whether it's a homosexual relationship, whether it's friendship, you find people who are very friendly and supportive. Watch them, they're very dangerous, because they're helping you to feel like you're something that you're not. And as a result of that, they put their will inside you, and they put their nature inside you. So it boils down to the point I was making before, that violence is of a character, it's the character of evil. Because, I mean, love and kindness and generosity and fairness and justice, these are all replicated in reverse in a man in his love for a woman. Because he's trying to be something through her he can never be. It's called pridefulness, and pridefulness is 180 degrees opposed to humility. It is the love of the devil. It's the craving for everything that's supportive of what's wrong with us, in helping us to rebel against truth. So therefore it starts with women. It goes on to whiskey and wine and marijuana and drugs. Everything that is serpentine and supportive. It's called culture. And pretty soon we have a whole culture of these things. And you see what's happening to America? What we think of, what we consider as civilization, culture, art, music, sex, freedom, sexual freedom, we think of as freedom in this country. You know, all we are is free from conscience. And we're turning into animals. We're being dehumanized by the serpents of the lower order, originating through Eve. Originating through her, it's not her fault, but she is the medium through which all hell comes into men to mistreat women, and men with the inhumanity of man with man also. Yes.
I heard you once say that that we never really can make a choice of ourselves. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, no such thing. There's no such thing as freedom, and there's no such thing as making a choice, because every choice is a compulsion.
So I wonder, once one is caught under a compulsion, what of what power are you taken out of that compulsion? If I can't make a choice, I know compulsion is a strange thing to me, because
are you
I almost
compulsive?
don't know I'm.
Are you compulsive?
In ways, yes.
Every compulsive is self-serving. For instance, this lady in front here a few minutes ago, I snubbed her a little bit, forgive me. But she says every time she gets upset with God or somebody, she binges on food. And now why does she binge on food? It's very clear. I made the point. I think the point is clear. She resents God, or she resents somebody when she could have been loving and patient. And now she feels guilty. And how does she get rid of the guilt? She hides in food. She loses herself in the sensation of food. Now, food is really self-serving. And to the degree that you have an ego that wants to escape, that wants to try not to be guilty, or trying to be something that it can't be, one, or not wanting to be guilty for becoming that, and then discovering that we're not what we think we are. See? We always achieve something. For instance, a man thinks when a woman loves him that he's really the cat's meow. But then the morning after, the night before, he discovers he's the cat's other end. See? And so therefore, he gets very disturbed and very upset and frustrated. And what he do? He gets all angry and goes out and drinks. So therefore, in one sense, pride became something. But then, when it became something, it became less than it thought it was. So it's lesser state. The last state was worse than the first one. Now it doesn't want to face reality. Now, alcohol, cocaine, and other women perhaps, these things become necessary for the survival of the ego. The ego cannot live with guilt. Because what is ego but God? God can't be guilty. Therefore, all the things which serve our ego and take away the guilt, take away the need for repentance and sorrow, by which real meaningful change can come about, all of these things have something to do with our compulsions. It has something to do with escape and trying to be something we can never really be. The fact we're drawn to the wrong people is all the wrong people. You can tell your children, hey, these people are not good for you. You can see what these people are up to in stroking your ego and pretending to be your friend. But your children can't see that. They're totally fixated. They think the bad is good because the bad makes them think there's something that they're not. Therefore, how can it be bad? It makes me feel good. It makes me feel like I'm Mr. Wonderful, right? Their logic is so locked into that they're always drawn to the wrong people. Then they get taken, then they get betrayed, then they get angry, and each time they have a love and then they have a hate. It makes them need things which love them to take away the pain of guilt and hate and failing, help them not realize it. But then they find the love betrays them again. And when it betrays them again, they get hate again. See?
Doesn't a child have...
Roy?
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify that with
Yes.
you before I had my
Am I making the
question.
point?
Oh, yes. I understood that. I just wanted to clarify or verify it with you before I asked the question. The question is, if there is no choice, which I agree with, we don't really make a choice, how is it that we're broken out of the compulsion?
By choosing that. It's the only choice.
How do we come out of choiceless choices? How do we come out of
Once you've been pulled into a compulsion, how is it that you're pulled out?
pain? Usually pain.
Yeah.
Because those who are born to experience the salvation of our Lord are sort of attached to Him through innate love, which is not yet a destiny, if you like. So there are some of us who never will make it. Many people in the world won't make it because, I don't know, God didn't love Pharaoh either. He hardened his heart and then threw him in the drink. You know what I mean? And then on top of that, had the chutzpah to say, for this purpose I brought you into being. He hardened his heart. You know? You see what I mean? You see, because he's in charge of what game is being played, and we can't fault him. He's the creator. He makes the rules. So if he wants to make a Pharaoh and harden his heart and never let him repent, just to show how wonderful and powerful he is, that's his thing. It has some value to somebody somewhere. But our types can never be satisfied with what their types are happy with. In other words, we may get into cocaine. And even I heard it on the news the other day that some people they use cocaine, but they don't become addicted. They can walk away from it. Those kinds of people have tried cocaine and find that it doesn't satisfy their inner needs, while the wicked, the totally committed to death and hell, from whom there is no hope, I'm sorry to say, there's no science can cure them once the hook of hell is in them. See, And if that's their destiny, you can't save them. You cannot save them from themselves. All you can do is teach them to have clean needles and put condoms on so they don't get AIDS. They're still going to do it anyway. See what I mean? Our type are attached to our God as if with an umbilical cord, so that when we move away towards what we think deceptively will give us what we're looking for, it's like a rubber band stretching, boop, and it pulls us back to our senses. What the hell am I doing this for? This is not really satisfying at all. And slowly but surely, it's this pain of being yanked back, having the rope yanked on our neck, that makes us see that that's not it, and that's not it, and that's it, not it. And whatever it is pulling us, yanking on the leash. See? It's given us a little leash to find out just for ourselves. And then it's that experience that eventually lifts us out of the compulsion. Because then we start to realize what's wrong with us. We start to search. Now, why do I behave this way? The minute you start to ask that question, why am I doing this? What am I doing this for? What's the meaning of life anyway? This is not meaningful. Those friends are not my friends. What am I here for? You start to seek meaning. And all of a sudden the answers start to come. It starts to trickle in from within you. It starts to give you direction and show you. It's only because the God of love corresponds to this. It waits for the inclination of your soul just to say, hey, what am I here for? It's waiting for that. See? The minute you ask that question, it gives you the real answer. And it frees you from all the other wrong answers, which are all relative to pride. See? But the prideful person cannot ask that question. What am I here for? If it asks the question, it's only lying to itself. It doesn't really want to know the answer. It's just trying to look scientific. Because it doesn't, you know what I mean? It looks through the telescope with its blind eye like Nelson. You know what I mean? It doesn't really want to find the answer. But it's got to say that, to at least, well, I asked the question, there's no answer anyway. So I'll go on drinking and smoking and wenching and, see what I mean? Oh, yes, well, we went through another half hour rather quickly. I hope you enjoyed that. And I had something else planned, but that fell by the wayside very quickly. But should we continue with this?
Yes.
Because we from the man-woman relationship, all kinds of other ideas, begin to move. Well, thank you very much. I hope that you will support the foundation in its work and keeping this program on the air. I've given my notice to the station, and well, something might be worked out yet, but it will depend upon your response. All I want you to do is respond and send a little money in an envelope, and we can pay our bills. And that's all. Thank you very much, and join us tomorrow night.
The foundation of human understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you have begun to practice this exercise, much of what you see and hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the foundation of human understanding, here is Roy Masters.
Welcome once again to the program. I'm Roy Masters, and the audience is heavy with questions, so I'm going to pick them while the going is good. Okay, here's the first question. It's all on the man-woman relationship, and we got to get beyond being fixated to each other to find the meaning of life. The meaning of life is not in a man's beyond and a woman's behind. I almost said behind. Start off the program real good. But anyway, most men think it's there, Okay, now the question is, go ahead.
You were talking before about how women tend to seduce their man and they build him up, and then he fails them, and and then the woman resents him for being a wimp or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, she resents him for not having the real love to save her from the game that somehow he forces her to play with him. It's almost like he pressures her to play that game, right?
Exactly.
Like he needs it so bad, you can't help but be compulsive, but give it, but hate while you give it. You know what I mean?
Well,
and you hate what you do to your own man. Is that right?
Exactly. But
All
my
right.
fear is that that rather than, say, finding a man that's going to be the man that I need, that I'll be the type like a Cagney and Lacey type, you know, where I'll end up
Oh, I hope
becoming
not.
more of a man.
Yes, you will.
Because I
That is
can't
a
find
danger.
the man to find that or to fulfill that need. So, I
What do
guess
you
what
do?
I'd like to know is what does a woman need to be? You know, we talk about how a man needs to be aware of what a woman does
All
to
right.
to him. What can a woman do to maintain her femininity but not, you know, build a man up and then tear him down, etc.
In other words, how do you not play the game?
Yeah, exactly.
And how do you not enter into the game?
Exactly.
And how do you find a man by not playing the game?
You got it, exactly.
I don't know. That's a good question. You really need to hold yourself out. Because how can the man find you that you want? If you'll pardon me putting it this way, if you're whoring around like all the other broads. So you know, there's so many women who will play the game, who will rise to a man's need, cater him so as to capture him, and then hate what she's got, right?
Right, exactly.
So once you understand that, it kind of spoils it for you. If you didn't know it before, then you thought, well, maybe I'm not normal. You had some reservations about the game. You could see it, but what else was there? That's all there was.
Right.
And you probably knew the truth, but you probably doubted it. It wasn't emphasized enough in your inner parts, right?
Right, exactly.
So now that you're wiser, I've ruined it for you, haven't I? You really can't play the game now.
You're right.
And you really have to be a holdout.
And I come across so many men that just are always disappointing me, and it's
They
so.
always will. They're a bunch of nerds. I'm sorry, that's all they are, is studs. They got no beyond. You know what I mean by beyond? They have no horizons, no vision, no depth. They only have this thick, brutish flesh that wants to be gratified, this little ego that cries out to the mother of its existence and wants to make you mother it and mother it and mother it and mother it until it turns you into an ogre. You're the Frankenstein and it's the monster, you know what I mean?
And I don't want to be a Frankenstein.
You've seen it happen to your parents.
You're right.
Do you know anybody that's happy? Look around you. You know, for a week, a week, a month, a year. But then what? Fighting, murdering, killing, violating, screaming, yelling, screwing each other up, mentally, emotionally, physically, running out, messing around with other women, messing around with other men. Oh, you don't love me anymore. Drinking pot. It's all you look around you as nothing but happiness. And everybody seems to get together. Everybody, hooray, she's getting married. Death do your part. You know, take it for better or for worse. For worse. You know, everybody thinks this is a glorious romantic thing, but we don't know what. But it isn't, is it? Something's missing. And that something missing you can find in yourself. And that's the truth that will make you free from the game. Hold out. Be moral. When you see men pouring on you and pulling mama out of you, and saying, well, prove that you love me, give me sex. You know what I mean? That's what they want. Well, you're proving that if you give them sex, you prove that you love them in the old way that your mother and father played the game, right? But the point is, that's not proving that you love them.
I know.
You see, to hold out and to hold back is more love. And if you have a man pulling on you and wanting to be your mother, when you feel this strange tug, and when he wants to go to bed with you, that's all he wants from you, is a mama's sexual support. Turn in the other direction. And keep turning in that direction and keep turning in that direction, even if you never get married. But you'll become a beautiful woman. And only the best, only what is beautiful, becoming beautiful in a man, will recognize you. But you have to stand out like a shining star. You can't be like the rest of the whores. See, I didn't have to put it that way, did I? That's a strong language, isn't it? But I want all the whores out there to jump, you know. They know who they are, right? Well, you get off calling us whores. The lady right there.
Her question answered a lot of my questions, but if I'm 18 years old, I'm young, and I'm dating all the time. I'm meeting new people all the time, new men all the time. And
You're experimenting.
Right. And
You're testing.
right, and I realize that a lot of relationships and marriages don't work anymore.
They never did.
Right.
What do you mean anymore?
And I want so much when I do get married for my marriage to work. And it's true, you get so caught up in that game, in that compulsion, and it's such a bond, you know.
You can't live with it, and you can't live without it.
Right. And say that you're already in a relationship, and you really like a person.
Be careful about liking somebody.
Right.
Because I like ice cream, but it ain't good for me because I get fat.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can like gambling. You can like lots of things. That doesn't mean to say it's good. People are very likable and make themselves likable for you to like them so that you think liking them is loving them. See? And why do you like them? Maybe they are weak. Maybe you think they're the man that he's not. Maybe he's putting on a show on you. Maybe he's playing a little game with you. Maybe you like him because he's like your father and you feel sorry for him and you like that. See what I mean? Be careful. Listen, the word is not like. The word is respect. Do you respect him? Now, what do I mean by that? Does any lady here know? How can you know whether you respect a man? What game must be played in order to discover that you respect him?
Better yet, how do you know if a man respects you?
That's good. I never would have thought of that, but
That is my question. How do you, without playing the game, how do you respect each other in a relationship and keep it healthy?
well, the point is, you know, you're a woman and a pretty one, and you have your machinery going all the time. It's whirring all the time, see? You know, and so therefore, men can't be affected by it, especially if you smile and show a little approval. That pulls down the ego and brings out the beast right away. Most men, all you have to do is wag your tail, right?
Right.
So the thing is, but when you find you go out with a man and he doesn't make advances to you, but he treats you like a gentleman, and talks to you about philosophy and things which are meaningful, not distraction like ball games and other junk, and tries to avoid meaningful discussion, because meaningful discussion, there's something about meaningful discussion that takes away the sexual appetite. There's something about trivia.
That I've had.
Is that right?
Yes, and I've had relationships like that. But also, then again, there's this other side that just, you know, and that's what tricks me all
What's
the time.
that? What's the other side?
Is the other side, the sexual side, the I want you side, you know.
Yes, and you respond to that. In other words, you feel the pull in your gut. You feel something inside you obligating you, making you feel like you're less than a woman unless you do, or guilty if you don't. And you start to resent it, and you start to feel that pressure, and you start to resent it, and that sets up conflict. And the only way you can resolve it is to give in to the pressure.
Right.
See? And then you know that something's wrong. You know that something's wrong. So you have to learn, when men start to come onto you that way, that something's wrong with a man coming onto you that way, because if he's a gentleman and had respect for you, he's going to contain himself for your sake. He is the caliber of person who knows that he must wait, and he must bide his time. He must know himself, because he loves you. He doesn't love you. He loves what's right in his heart first, and know that there's an invisible law called morals, and certain requirements in courting and relationship must be fulfilled before such a relationship is permitted. You see what I mean? You'll see that in a man. You'll see that. Pardon?
I will be aware of that and make that a part of my life.
Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does, very much so.
I have some sons who are very moral young men, and they can have all the girls they want because they're very handsome, Mark and Michael. They're both single, but they treat the ladies, I know it to be a fact, but they treat the girls with absolute propriety. with honor, and they're not fresh with them. I know they're real men, and they got this, the sap rising in the tree. You see, I'm quite sure of that. But they know they have such love of what's right in their hearts. They know the danger to themselves. They know the danger to the ladies. They know that it is nothing good can come from it. Therefore, that knowledge restrains them, and that is that love of God. Because such knowledge, with such strength and such knowledge, there must be a love of good, and then you love that. You admire that.
Can I ask one more question?
But you can't have him. You can't manipulate him. The girls would like to get him, but nobody can. None of the girls can manipulate them. Don't you see?
Say that you're already in the relationship though, and this game is going on. How do you end it?
End it.
Just don't. I mean.
That's it. He's not the man.
Yeah. Okay. So say.
Be a
you
woman.
do,
Be
and-
real. Be honest. Say, no,
Okay.
look,
and
I
take
see
the
you
chance.
pulling on me, and and I can't respect you for that. And so you go find your manhood, and you find your honor, and you come back and see me.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay? he might like that too. You might wake him up. See? Yes, young man.
Okay, so kind of answer my question in a way also. So how would it, as being a man, would you choose? I know you can't choose, but how would you choose for yourself the right woman, or she would just come to you, or just by
Like I
being-
said, hold yourself out like a shining star.
just hold out?
And they're all of them. They know if you're a good-looking young man and you look like a nice, juicy picking. You're going to find a lot of girls on the make for you. They're going to be testing you. All of them are going to be testing you. But when they find that you don't respond, that you are under control, this is how it works. This is how you select. When you have perfect control, when you have perfect set of morals, and you know what right and wrong is, and what the love of what right is to restrain you, and you know that you want to have self-respect, is to have respect for others, and you understand the principle of courtship and love, if you understand all that, when women who are wanton, the women that are not right for you, when they come against you and test you, and they can't take you to bed, and they can't move you, they will walk away from you as though you were something wrong with you. You'll find them. As a matter of fact, you won't be able to understand. There'll be a certain innocence about you that will keep women away. Just like a woman, if she's innocent and doesn't want to play games, men know that, and they'll leave her alone, as if there was something dirty or something wrong with her, something weird. And you'll find in your case, young man, that those same women that you are dealing with as a gentleman will run off. You'll find them dealing with the seediest type of other men, and you wonder what they see in them. What they see in them is weakness. They're just animals. These women like the power and to turn men into animals and to have control of these animals through sex. And they love those weak men. Now, I was a young man once. I don't know how good looking I was, but I was young once. And, I was young like young men are. But I find it difficult to get into trouble because there was a certain innocence. I never said I didn't get into trouble. I said I found it difficult to get into trouble because I had a certain innocence about me, like a little child. Therefore, the women weren't attractive. Some of them were attractive to try to make out, but I didn't quite understand. You know what I mean? It didn't work. See? Those signals weren't affecting me. Those signals affect you only after you fall. Do you understand that? Because you become conditioned. See, so. But I noticed that the girls didn't go for me as much as the scummiest young men, the brutish, the seediest looking guys. They would be flirting and making out with. And it took me a long time to realize it wasn't because there was something wrong with me, because there was something right with me. Now the trouble is, once you've had an encounter or two, that innocence kind of disappears and you find yourself sensitive to the bodies of these ladies and to their other side. See, they're beyond. And you find yourself, under sort of a hypnotic sway, being pulled almost against your best judgment. That's why you must meditate, and the men must meditate and come back to this innocence so that the pull gets weaker and weaker and weaker, so that eventually you decide the season when a relationship must take place, and not the seduction deciding the season. Because once the seduction decides the season, then you are no longer your own person. It becomes a trauma, and trauma leads to even more sensitivity, so that you become more sensual, more sexual, more weak. So you have more sex, but you enjoy it less. See? Because now you're having sex to escape from the guilt of having sex. See? You're trying to be a man, losing yourself in the woman to escape from the guilt of not being a man with a woman. It's like drinking to forget the guilt of drinking. You understand that? And pretty soon, the very presence of drink makes you want to slobber. See?
So through the meditation, then, that's how you rid yourself of it. Because I feel, you know, pretty much addicted to women, I think.
Well, you've had a few women, I suppose.
More than a few.
Yeah, well, see, you're a naughty boy. Now you see.
And I'm trying to break free from that. That's what I'm, you know, I
know.
want to be on the right path.
But you have to realize, you know, that you're wrong.
I know that.
And that
That's why I'm here.
once you've crossed that border, you come under the grip of the spirit of the other side of the border. Like when you go to Russia, you become subject to Gorbachev and his gang. And you can't help but feel the environment. You want to go to Tijuana? Cross the border in Tijuana and feel the oppressive atmosphere. Is that right or not?
Yeah.
You want to rush back across the border to the United States, even though it's becoming like that over here too now. In the inner cities, it's becoming that way. But the point is, once you cross that border, you've got to stay within the parameters of your conscience. And if you don't, you must realize you must come back to it. And that's what the meditation is for. Come back to it. Always be honest. Always be honorable. Never be self-serving. Don't be an opportunist. There's always someone helping you to steal something. There's always someone helping you to have an illicit experience. There's always someone who is a friend of your ego, giving you a new adventure, a new thrill, a new kind of love. See? And you have to understand that none of those things, you should see them for what they are. If you love the truth, you see them for what they are. And you see your attraction to that as something wrong with you. See? And see the attraction to that not as love, but as a weakness. But the trouble is, egotistical people do not see their attraction as weakness. They see it as something quite different. It's like a virtue. Someone understands their need and loves them at last. They see their weakness, because other people see their weakness for them as a virtue. The seducer sees your weakness for them as virtue, and that's what you want to believe, and that's what pulls you in so quickly. Because you're looking for the first opportunity to escape the pain of your guilt. See, to involve yourself in an unconflicted person, a person without shame, to take your own shame away for what you've become. So the same kind of people before that. Yes.
So when you're meeting women or something like that, how do you know that it's not in the wrong way? Like maybe she's trying you in the wrong way, or
then prove that then show your manly side.
And if she's right, she'll stay with you, and if she's wrong, she'll fade away.
She'll start to respect you. But then see, some men will hold out for a while and pretend that they're strong and right, only to fool a woman into having respect for him, and then all of a sudden she finds herself giving herself to him. You know what I'm talking about, ladies? Men who pretend to be strong and noble and brave. Because a woman can always give herself to a man. Who is that? Because that's the proper way to give yourself to a woman. I mean, for a woman to give herself to a man is when she finds she's tested him and known him for a while and realized that he's a good, decent man, that he really, truly loves her and cares for her, and that she really respects that. Then when they get married, she comes over from East Germany, see, to West Germany, where he is. But he can't come over from West Germany to her East Germany and expect to have her respect, because she's going to be... See, he's broken the rules. In his pridefulness, he's too eager to get sex, to ego support. He has to go to East Germany to get that support from her. But then he can't get back to West Germany. West Germany don't want him, he's a defector. See what I mean? God doesn't want you back again until you admit what you've done is wrong, that you've been, you've used this woman. You haven't loved her. You don't really care about her. Because if you had loved me, you'd seen what you were doing was only caring for yourself. See what I mean? You understand that? That's what it's saying to you. And I'm trying to say it the best way I can.
So maybe you'll never meet the right woman then, right?
So don't be upset about it. Big deal. You're better off not living in East Germany, aren't you? So what? You go through life and you don't get married. You haven't missed anything. If you can't find a good one, don't get married at all. But look, you're only 22. How old are you? 25? Okay, give yourself some time. Give yourself a few years. Leave the girls alone, because your brains will melt. And your brains will melt and dribble down the toilet. See, because you're so preoccupied in getting love and sex and spending your money on women and showing her a good time, you're so preoccupied you can't grow. Now, my sons are growing in leaps and bounds. They go out with the young ladies, they treat them right, but they're not emotionally involved and fix it. They're going on with their business. They're more involved in their real estate and construction and striking huge business deals. They're having a great time. They're building, they're buying, selling, trading, hiring, firing, making decisions. They're growing inside. They're growing to be a giant inside. They're not preoccupied with it. They're not being debilitated. They're not wasting their essence. See? Give yourself... Then one of these days, 25, 30, 35 maybe, you'll have grown and you will have understood yourself. You'll be in command of your faculties. You'll be so much so that you'll be a mature woman. You're a mature man, you'll attract mature women. That in you will attract that in them. And you will know one another. Right now, you're not even dry behind your ears, and you're screwing everything in sight. This is no future in it. This is what the children this is what the schools teach. No morals, no principles. You're just sexually active, and just teach them how to do it. That's so they don't have babies. Give them an education. Has nothing to do with character building whatsoever. Our young people are simply growing up to be nothings. Animals, beasts, wimps, female bitches and manipulators, right? Mothers with babies, teenagers with babies that don't even know how to bring themselves up. Fathers who just studs and who just don't give a damn. This is a society where this is all because it's outside the laws of our Creator. Even the farmer knows when to put the cow and the bull together. He knows how to select the cow and he select the bull. And he has the best offspring. And it seems to me like there's got to come a time in your life when you can select your own cow. You can select your own lady and reproduce heaven. Otherwise you're going to reproduce hell. Before the time of understanding, before the enlightenment, you're going to reproduce hell. And your children are going to grow up in that hell to reproduce hell. Because there's no understanding, there's no father, there's no mother, there's only just lust and manipulation. The old man-woman thing that never went anywhere and never will. And you figure all these thousands of years, there's billions of people who come and gone, you used to figure they figured it out by now. But they kill the ones that do. Is that right? Because we just love wallowing in our piggy little slops. See? Yes.
What if you now see the hell that you didn't see before?
Well, bully for you.
What do I do
It's a
about
beginning.
my bull now?
All right, we'll save that for the next... did you know that we went for another half an hour? Did it seem like a half an hour? No, it doesn't. I'm glad, because it means that, we're getting into it, aren't we? All right, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. As I said, I've given my notice to the station. I hope that you will respond. Enough of you appreciate this kind of dialogue. I don't hold anything back. So please don't hold anything back, so we can't hold... Otherwise, we'll have to hold back. like no ticky, no washy sort of thing. Send some money and make it regular. We're a non-profit organization. It's tax deductible, and we will share with you. I want to share with you, but I got to get on the boob tube in order to share with you, and you guys have to send me some money. Thank you for listening, and join us again. Okay, here we are again, and we are into the man-woman relationship pretty deep, but in a different way, because being into the man-woman relationship pretty deep is what our problem is. We have to be, as I've said before, maybe not here, but on my radio program, we have to be unemotionally involved. I am now totally unemotionally involved with my wife. When I was emotionally involved, she had me. See? And that wasn't good for me, and it wasn't good for her to possess me through weakness. Emotional involvement, that's how men get to think that there's something. The emotion, the feeling that women make men feel. They release feeling by supporting ego and helping them doubt that they're not a man, but making them think that they are men. See, there's nothing more, there's a rush of feeling when a woman looks at a man with admiration in her eyes, which he doesn't deserve. Men are hungry. Undeserving men, dirty old men need love too. There's no bumper sticker that goes around town. But the most unworthy and the most uncouth and the most nothing men are hungry for recognition. And there's nothing, there's a feeling that is awakened when a woman has a little come on and shows acceptance for that male ego. When a man begins to think he's loved for a moment and he got that acceptance, there's a warm feeling of love, a warm rush, a release of emotion as he falls away, as he's again traumatized by the sting of the serpent, that false love, the forbidden fruit. Here, you could be God. See? There's an understanding here, this is what you need. The dope is the same way. There's something very exciting about the presence of this ego support, that when a man falls for that, it's another trauma, and that trauma awakens sensuality, warm feelings of emotion for the woman, and something opens up, and man feels something coming from the woman, and woman feels something coming from the man. Have you ever, gentlemen, have you ever felt something going out of you into a woman besides you know what? It's like some energy and life going out of you into her, and something coming into you from her, fulfillment. You feel like you are somebody, and it's hard to describe it, but you have to go through it to know what I'm talking about. But it's this trauma of love that deadens the conscience and takes away the anxiety over a man's anxiety about what he is. Every man carries with him a terrible anxiety over what he is. He exists in a wrong way. But a woman helps him forget that, to deny that, to doubt that he exists in a wrong way, to believe that he's a man existing in a right way. And this idea of a man depends upon the traumas of love. See? So it is an emotional thing that a man feels. A woman makes a man feel emotion. But guess what? She feels what he feels. And that becomes her life. Because once she starts to enter the game, she no longer has a life of her own. The person who is seduced is dependent on seduction. But the person who seduces is dependent on failing. Like the addict is dependent upon fix. But the fixer is dependent on an addict needing that fix. Follow that? So,
I want to know, you were going to talk about hope and despair, but this ties in with man, woman. When I feel like I'm the house and I've got a murderer living in my house, and that's inside of me.
Inside of you,
that wants to kill everything good in a man, and I'm aware of that.
Sounds like my wife. Exactly. That's exactly what's in a woman.
Yeah.
I've told when I first got married, I said, Anne, I see something in you that wants to kill me. Oh, you're crazy. She said I was crazy for 35 years, but now she admits it. It's true.
Yeah. But how it's horrifying seeing that because it's inside of myself. How do you not despair when you see that?
Can I get a show of hands from the ladies who understood what this lady said? And that's all the ladies here, right? No, okay, in other words, she feels like she has a murderer inside of her that wants to kill, destroy men.
Yeah.
Even everything good, she said that. You went on to say that, didn't you?
Right, yeah.
And that is in a man. There's something that wants to hurt men and destroy them. But yet you pretend to love them. And how you do it, do you know how prostitutes get revenge on men? That's a profession. Because they know that sex is man's weakness. And so therefore, and they die through sex while they think they're living it through sex. See? Men don't know they're dying through it. They think they're living through it. See? They don't know that it's a total illusion. Complete, and so therefore, a woman who hates men is a prostitute. Because she seems to love, but how does she get even with them? She destroys them. She makes a profession of destroying men through love. She knows she's killing them and making a good living from it. She knows she's doing it. She finds satisfaction in killing these men. But the men don't know it. And she's laughing up her sleeve. She knows that she...
Right, but I'm not clear. In what way are men dying through sex?
Because of their ego needs are being fulfilled.
But in other words, they're not dying through sex unless their ego needs
Exactly right. Thank you very much for... You've done your job. See, in other words, there is no problem with sex in the relationship between man and woman, wherein there is the proper love thing, where a woman respects a man and gives her body to the men. Did I say that in the last section? I said, in the last session I said that if a woman can hold herself out from those women all alike who give their bodies to, who cater to men's weaknesses, who quickly give honor to men to whom honor is never due, and awaken their sexuality and therefore sexually begin to control them. See, if a woman holds herself up from playing the game and waits for a man who is honorable, she may test that. She may test a few men, go out on a few dates, but find a man who doesn't give in to that, who doesn't pull on her that way. Well, if she finds that goodness in a man, that strength in him, that holds himself, is also holding himself apart, and knows what honor is, what is right in his heart, is not to violate ladies before them. See what I mean? To bring a family up in the proper time. Even a farmer knows that, how to bring, animals into being at the proper time, proper season, the proper types. See what I mean? So your type is waiting, your lady type, the lady is waiting for the man type. You're looking for each other and you find each other. Then when a woman when the appropriate courtship and proposals are made, and the woman comes across and joins with the man, she's then able to give her body for the reproduction of heavenly things. Do you understand what I'm saying then? Then that is a joy then, to join herself to what is good, even as the man himself is the extension of good in himself. So this is wholesome. We're not taught this in school. Then a woman won't hate a man then, and the sex won't be undue. The sex won't be excessive, because we're not cultivating, a woman is not cultivating weakness, but going along with something pure. You see, if you love somebody, I'm making a point, if you love somebody and support someone who's good, you don't weaken him. But if you support someone who's bad, you weaken them. See, there's a sign written over one of the schools in the East. I don't remember the name of the school, but it's one of the schools for rich politicians' sons. And over the sign says, "To serve is to rule." It could have been written by the serpent himself. There's a kind of service, a supportiveness for what's wrong and weak in a person that weakens and then gives power to that which serves. But then there's a kind of service to what is good. There's a kind of love that goes along with love and has nothing to do with weakness at all, but has something to do with both agreeing with what is good and joining. You see what I mean? If you love a good man, then you're good also. If you agree with a good man, you're agreeing not with the man himself, but more so with the good in the man. And that's the way it should be. It's a system of things. But if you go along with a bad man, for instance, what kind of man would it be that loved Hitler, that agreed with him? It's the one that would become a slave of Hitler. But if you go along with a good man, like Jesus, for example, he wouldn't become a slave. His yoke would be light. It'd be fun to be with. It'd be just life would be just a breeze. The fact that you love him means you'd embrace everything that is within him. But the fact that you love a Hitler would mean that you're embracing everything within the Hitler. Don't you see? You'd be supporting the Hitler. You'd be supporting the evil, and the evil will have you, because that's the nature of it. So,
but how do you deal with this? How does hope come out of this despair of seeing that thing inside of yourself?
well, you are probably having anger towards yourself, aren't you? You're angry at what a fool you've made of your life. I'm sure you've made a fool of yourself with men before.
Yeah.
And therefore have suffered as a result of those games that you have played, and have learned to hate men and to need men in order to work your salvation out with. And when the men have come along to work your salvation, you made the same mistake again.
Yeah.
See what I mean? Because that's because you haven't been saved yourself. You need salvation. When you ask me how, well, I just mentioned the name of a great man, J.C., not Penny, but J. Jesus was here a long time ago, and he came to reverse, in my opinion, to save us from one another, to save the man from the spirit of the woman. What was the original sin? But man fallen to the spirit of the woman, beguilement. The serpent in the garden, where did it operate? It operated in the female, right? And it's been operating in there ever since, to the failing of men ever since. And so therefore, when man fails a woman, he falls away. When the first man fell away from, if there was a first man, and I think there was, and he fell away from God to the woman, then it stands to reason that ever since that time, the child that came into the world from the woman, from that relationship, didn't have a father. You see that? Children have never had fathers. There's no such thing as parents who are right. Not even this parent. I'm right now, and therefore my kids, to the degree I become right, they become right. To the degree I become wrong, sickness and tragedy comes into the family. Even sickness and family. I see as I'm more careful with my diet and more careful with myself in different things which I wasn't careful before, eating more sensibly and things, I see my kids not being able to eat the foolish things they ate before. And you see what I'm saying? They start to see, they seem to take the example. I don't have to yell and scream and say don't eat this and don't eat that, but they start to see, watch me, they're watching me and studying me and taking form from their respect from me, their insides. So, any more questions? Does it answer your question? Does it really? So I would say stop hating knowing what a wasted life, because you've wasted a lot of your youth, haven't you? Yeah. So stop hating the fact that you know it, and be glad that you learned it sooner than later. You have the knowledge now, don't you? So why don't you be glad you have the knowledge and go on from here? Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Keep it clean.
Okay.
And don't waste your substance, dreaming about men and looking for men. And the fact that you're looking for them and dreaming and pining after them means you haven't learned your lesson. And fantasizing them and wondering where you're going to meet one. Just forget the swines. Excuse me, put it there. Just forget them. Just go about your business and decondition yourself. See, by going about your work and being sensible, going about, start your own business, buy, sell, trade, build, whatever it is you do it like a man, independent like a man. Live and think with reason and logic. See, develop your inner character through all of your business experiences. Build your empire. Concentrate on building this character, this inner person. through the decision-making process of life itself. See? A wonderful adventure. I always believe that a person should be in their own business, because that's how you don't have to cow down to a boss. You don't have to take any gaff. You can make your decisions and live and die by each, That's the way it should be. So work on that and build character. One day, 5 years from now, having taken your mind completely off this man-woman thing, all the conditionings that have been associated with it will fall away. After all, if you don't speak a language for 10 years, you may forget it. See? So if you don't speak that language for about 5 years, all your sensitivities will fall away. That makes sense to you? Go about something else for a while. Let all those sensitivities die. And as they do, and you don't fulfill them anymore, your mind becomes clear and bright, and you start to see the beyond, and the beyond the beyond. You'll start to know what hope is. You start to find out what life is all about. And if you listen to this man, what this man is trying to do for you is like the man that you want to meet should be doing for you. He should be leading you back to yourself and not abusing your body for his own pleasure taking. You see what I mean? Ego taking. Is that making sense to you?
Very much.
That's what a man should do. But men, they're too selfish. You see, if a man knew what was right, but he was egotistical and selfish, he would never teach his woman to be right. You know why? Because his future ego, his security rests on a woman not being right. It rests on him teaching her the wrong things. See what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Teaching her the wrong love for him.
Mm-hmm.
You know that, don't you?
Yeah.
Ladies, do I hear say amen to that? How many? Yay, yay, yay. See? They'd hold it back.
I know.
Yes, sir.
Yes, is that the essence of you originally were going to speak about the purpose of life? Is that the essence of our purpose, is to see the man-woman relationship? I'm wondering...
To soar beyond it.
Why, okay, I'm wondering why am I here? Why...
Good question.
Would I be here, if
it wasn't for a man-woman relationship? Yeah, but you would have been here. Yes, you would have been here under different circumstances. See, now, for instance, if I had known what I know now when I was young, I wouldn't have had the horror. But I didn't know that. Most of us, 99% of us, 100% of us, we enter into a relationship under the spell of original sin. And if anybody tries to tell us, they're usually not strong enough. They're not really from the other world yet. They're usually some preacher or minister or some well-meaning parent who tries to warn us. Careful, don't, it's hell, but you don't believe them. I try to tell you, but they weren't a good example because they hadn't arrived there. They're only warning you from from hell, not from heaven. They're trying to keep you away from the hell that they're in. See? So they're not very credible, are they? No one can tell you. They're not believable. They're not credible witnesses. So it seems like we all have to learn this the hard way. And perhaps we come into the world, as a result of that relationship of our own parents. And we see the horror of that, but we get imprinted for our reaction to it, and we start to carry forward into our own lives what we duplicate in our own lives what was happening in our own family. I won't go into that now because we've been into that before. The thing is suffering. We're all born in sin. We're all born of that lineage, the failing man, the failing woman syndrome, and we come into the world, they're the offspring of something. But in some of us we say, there's something wrong with all this. There's something a little different in us than everybody else. And we're not happy. We say, we've got to find an answer. Something's wrong. All these people are unhappy. I don't see happy marriages. My father was crazy. My mother was crazy. My father's a wimp. And then I look around me and everybody's the same way. Something's wrong. We search. Now I think that is a divine thing because there's something magical about God is so brilliant that for me to try to explain his brilliance, my words start to fall apart in my mouth, but I'm going to try a little bit to explain what I think is the brilliance, because If God had made, I know that God is a God of love. I know that. But he's also creator. In an inexplicable way, he's creator. He's made everything that is seen and is not seen. The expanse of the universe, from the macrocosm to the microcosm and beyond the microcosm, to whatever is there, to the spiritual. But as one thing, he wanted to create love. He is love. He wanted to create love. Not the only love in the universe, him, but he needed was a correspondent to love. He wanted children. So, he created man and woman in his image. And he took the material, the earth, the elements, and breathed into it the breath of life and made him a living soul, part spiritual, part earth, something of both worlds. And so that the spirit of man lives in both worlds, eternally adventuring. But there's a flaw. There was one small flaw in this creation, that if it was created like everything else, it would be subject. And what is subject is not free to love. In other words, the atoms are not free to be anything but atoms. See? The stars are not free to be anything but stars. And so on, so on. Or everything becomes everything else eventually, but everything moves according to orbits and cycles and immutable laws, right? Now, the problem is, how do you create something that is of nature and of law that can love? Because you can't say animals love, because they're compulsive. They got to do what they got to do. They're not free. We think of animals as free, but they're really not. They're compulsive. They move in their little ruts and circles and life cycles, don't they? They're not really love. So he made a means by which we can be free spiritually. He created evil, and he created this test, the forbidden fruit, to test man's soul, and to give him the right to choose between being God. That's what it was, and or loving God. And he knew that I'm conjecturing this, but see how it sits with you. He knew that every couple he would make, every pair that he would make, would always choose the wrong, to be free, but then find themselves enslaved to what freed them. That's what we are all born subject. Now that original choice has been used up. There are no more choices. You are not free moral agents. You're children of original sin. Through the failing of fathers, through this, you are under the tutelage of the spirit of your mother. See? And separated from your father's love, who never had love anyway. He was too busy using your mother, see, to support his ego. So here you are, cast adrift. But the beautiful part is this. Adam was born, created in God's image, and he had the choice. And he chose. And he chose for mankind this fate that we inherit. But what is our choice? We are born under the system. It's a horrible system. No matter where you go in the world, even in America, there's horror out there, isn't there? There's madness. Something's willing to get you and compound your misery in drugs, alcohol, music, treacherous love. It's all there, making your condition ever worse, trapping you deeper and deeper into lower levels of hell. So this is through your pain, you suffering this. So now you know what hell's like because you're born into it. This is what it is. You're halfway to hell right here. You taste it, you smell it, you touch it. As you get older, you begin to realize that you're not a free moral agent at all. Your hang-ups grow, your compulsions grow. Your sense of despair and hopelessness grows. Your sense of impending death and disaster, it grows, doesn't it? You know there's something wrong with the way you exist, because had you been able to choose all your life, would you have chosen that? Hell no. See? All your choices were selfish. And everything, and that which has created those compulsive choices understood how to cater to you and give you the false love and mislead you and deceive you with its lies, operating through other human beings. So, the magic of salvation is through Christ's love, is that he saves you from choice. Because Adam had one choice, from heaven to hell. But our choice, in a manner of speaking, is not so much a choice. but a salvation from choice, a willingness to admit, you have to admit you're wrong. You admit that something's wrong, and to want the purpose for which you were created. And when you have that attitude, the knowledge of Him comes to you again. And He gives you the power to cry to Him to be saved. Your soul has to be turned around. You must be searching, otherwise you can't receive Him. He comes into your searchingness and reveals Himself in your inner mind. And there's a salvation prepared for those that love Him. So what it is, we're being saved from a choice. We're saying, hey, we're like the prodigal son. I've had my fill. See, I've squandered my inheritance. I've lived with the pigs. Dare I come home again? See? But you see that what it is, it's salvation from choice. From an original one, you inherited it. You've added to it too. Salvation is from choice. And that's how we learn to love God. To give up our life and come back to Him voluntarily. See? Well, anyway, I haven't got time to finish the thought. There's more tagged on the end of that, but got to go. Keep the program on the air. Otherwise, we can't survive. I've given my resignation to the station, so if you want to keep it on the air, please send your support immediately. Thank you for listening. Join us again.
The foundation of human understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you have begun to practice this exercise, much of what you see and hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the foundation of human understanding, here is Roy Masters.
We're into a very heavy discussion about the fallen man and about how he chose to choose and how choosing to be God, which is a life of choosing, because once you see, if you lived in your innocent state, you wouldn't have to choose anything. You wouldn't have to decide anything. You'd simply see what was right and you do it. It's like living in West Germany, like choosing to be living in East Germany or West Germany. If you choose to be in West Germany, you've got to do what they say over there, and well, that's the dark side, right? East Germany is the dark one, and West Germany is the nice one. So if you choose the wrong, and maybe the West Germany thing doesn't fit very well, but you come under a system where you have an ego that chooses to be an ego, to be God, in other words, has to go on making choices of a God, because God is one who creates, and in creating, one has to decide about creation. See? So it's the same thing with a human ego. When you lose your innocence through choosing to be God, you have to go on choosing so that you can know yourself as God. Who understands that? Because that's how you know yourself as God. So so now all of your choices after that point will be compulsive. Because there'll be something about that choosing will be having to do with denying God. Giving up choice. Sometimes if you're going to give up playing God, you'd have to give up choosing. But there's something about having started to play God that forces you to go on choosing, because part of that choosing is choosing to be God at the same time denying God. So in the choice, there's the denial of God to be one's own God. It's a little complicated, but who follows it? It's clear, right? So now there's something about the choosing which is also very interesting, is that we'll always choose that which makes us feel God. Or, another way of saying it, we'll always choose those kinds of people, places and things that make us feel good, like God. And therefore, we will always think that good is bad. That which is godly and pure and good, we have no use for. For instance, bad men have no use for nice women. See what I mean? So, you find that people who are egotistical, you'll find them in beer parlors and pool halls and all the seedy places and the dark places, because that's where they're attracted to that which makes them feel good, like God. So therefore, all choices have something to do with selfishness. The wrong people will always look right to you because they will play the game, so you'll choose them. And you'll always choose things which enhance selfishness. And they will always, so that way will always look attractive to the eye. The wrong people, the wrong business deals, the wrong substances, even the wrong food. You won't eat the right food because the right food would awaken you. If you could eat the right food, if you could have the right sex, unless it's spiced up, and the right food, unless it's spiced up, and sex, unless it's spiced up, doesn't do anything for a man. It has to be something wrong coming through that. It has to be polluted. It has to be perverted. The food and the sex. Food would be boring to you if it was just plain, simple food. An apple, you couldn't eat just an apple. It has to be apple strudel. There has to be the smells and the aromas and everything the forbidden, that is, one can get deeper into it because it's so much more sensuous and pleasing. So therefore, we look at everything that is unnatural and wrong for us and improper and perverted, and as we look favorably upon those choices. We look unfavorably upon the things which tend to awaken us and lead us back to reality. Our choices will always be wrong. And because of all the things I've mentioned, every choice helps you deny God to be your own God. And when you discover that you're not God, but you're a dog, the realization, what do? You go on choosing. You choose something else that makes you feel like God and reinforce. So what you have is a problem of choosing. How many people have a problem making decisions? Because after a while, you're afraid to make decisions. Because every decision, as you get older, you begin to see where it's leading you. So then you don't make decisions. But that's a decision too. You decide not to decide. It is a terrible dilemma. So the gentleman over here had something to say about you got it. You picked up on it, didn't you?
Yes, when we were talking in the last session, when you were saying it, it just kind of dawned on me that the only possible choice that we have is to give up choice.
To realize that that's our downfall, isn't it?
Yes, I could really see how choice was tied in with willfulness.
And playing God, and playing God, and pridefulness.
Yes. Yes, I was going to ask you if you knew that in the Greek language, the word heresy, our word heresy means choosing.
Does it really?
Yes.
Well, that's very interesting.
So we choose what we want to believe. I guess that's why there's so much division and so much theological nonsense in the world. People choose what they want to believe about reality instead of waiting to learn.
That's exactly right. And whoever comes along with appropriate excuse, with appropriate set of religious mumbo jumbo, to make the person who's unholy feel holy, to justify the strangeness of their ways, which have come through the failing of choosing, and the choosing of failing. You know what I mean? To make it all comfortable. That do they choose? You see, and they get deeply enmeshed in more lies and more self-deception. And at the root of all that, everyone feels like God. There are even religions that help you feel like you are God.
But even if this started out purely, wouldn't there be a tremendous pressure on the people leading this to make the people feel like they had the power to choose what was true? I mean, wouldn't the people themselves seduce the leaders?
No, I'm afraid I'm losing the question here.
That there's such a demand in human nature for having the ego and the willfulness flattered that maybe one of the reasons that so many religious movements fail is that there's so much pressure on anybody who sets themselves up as a leader to meet that need, rather than correcting people, that even if he started out with a good intent, he's going to be seduced.
That's exactly right. I wouldn't argue with that at all. Anybody else have a comment on that? Yes.
I still don't really understand about the choice thing. I mean, we're slaves of sin, I understand that. We suffer because of our sins, but don't we at some point have to make a decision that that suffering is either just or unjust? I mean, but in other words, in the sense of repentance, don't you recognize that your suffering is just?
The problem with human beings is they're not willing to face the truth. Until you're willing to face the truth, you keep choosing that which makes you feel like you're the truth, and make you feel innocent in your guilt. Now, rephrase the question again. Say that again. What you just said.
Well, it seems to me that at some point, I mean, we all suffer, and in that suffering, we can resent it. We can feel it's unjust, and we're trapped in this out of control world, in an out of control situation,
Right.
and we're being tortured, and we're damn angry about it.
Right.
Or we can start to recognize that we are it. We are that mad world, and therefore our suffering is
doing
just,
something.
is proper.
In other words, the suffering is just that we suffer.
Yes, and in that process, we.
And then what happens when you start to see that it's just that we suffer? What happens to your ego if you could allow yourself to see that you brought it on yourself by some minuscule little process of choosing, some inherited ego, that you've added sin to sin, in other words, choice to choosing to more choosing, more wrong choosing to more wrong choosing, to bring yourself all this horror and catastrophe. What would happen if you should allow yourself to realize you deserve the suffering? What would happen if you allow the suffering to awaken you? What happens? What do you think happens to you? You become humiliated.
Oh, yes. I mean,
See, in other words, but humiliation can become humility. Now, I think it really boils down to, in my opinion, and I'm just going to put it, I'm pretty outspoken, and when I don't deal with opinions for the most part. But in my opinion, is that it's not choosing to see the truth. I think it's a willingness. See, because we have such a willfulness, and this willfulness is turned against God. See, and pain can make us realize something wrong with this willfulness. And I don't know the mystery, but if we're willing, but it's not choosing, it's sort of willing. Do you know what I'm trying to say? It's not a choosing so much, because I don't think we have power. The only choice we have is to keep choosing to choose, and to choose that which helps us to make us think we're God and not dogs.
When Moses said, when they were talking, when Joshua came to him and said that someone else was prophesying and that Moses should tell him to be quiet because then the people wouldn't follow Moses. And Moses said, I would that all of God's people be prophets. And I think that's when you start taking on the ability to follow what you see is the first step of becoming a prophet, because the Hebrew word for prophet is like an irrigation ditch or a pipe that water flows through. And if you're open to the Holy Spirit so the Holy Spirit can flow through you with no obstacles, which is what sin is, then you become a channel for God, and then you don't have to choose because everything is just laid out before you. It's like the path is opened up, and you can walk down it without any obstacles.
It is the willingness as opposed to the willfulness of allowing the truth to shine, to make you aware of your willful the choices of your willfulness. See, and as if to say, God, save me from my willfulness. Mm-hmm. See, the willingness is not so much of a choice. It is a kind of willingness, but how can you say it's a choice? Because the only choices you have is to lead you into the wrong.
It's more the letting go.
It's more the letting. It's a very hard thing for me to really pinpoint. Yeah. Forgive me. It is not easy to talk about, but I don't think it's a choice so much as the willingness to face reality. See, and the willingness to stop hardening your heart, as in choosing. Yes.
I was just going to say, in answer to the man's question, he was saying that he was wondering, do you have to decide at some point or do something of yourself to see whether it's right that you're suffering or not? But I would just say, if you become aware,
allowing yourself to be aware.
You just become aware, that would annihilate your own choice, your ego, or your will.
See, isn't it hard to talk about?
Yeah.
It's when you get to that little apex, all the words disappear, and we try our best to say what it is, that's what's happening, but then the words start to fail, because the point of that pyramid is such a tiny little point where everything complex rises from it, right? So I think it's just mostly a willingness to face reality, an unwillingness. And the unwillingness is represented by these choices. See, so when you're willing to see the truth, you begin to see how compulsive, how prideful you are in thinking that you know it enough through your knowledge. How do you make choices? It's between knowledge, good, evil, weigh one thing against the other. It's if you're dipping into your intellect to come up with weighing the facts and making your choices. All choices make you feel like you can accomplish and be what you cannot be, and then you make a mess, and you start to realize you're in a mess. But then there's the hardness of the heart that is unwilling because it's willfulness, and it nosedives into its choices again. It starts to worry. Isn't what worry a part of the process of choice? And a negative faith, isn't it? See, so I think it's more of a willingness. Something's wrong. The willingness to recognize that we are wrong. There's something wrong with the way we exist. And in that willingness is poured the whole answer. The salvation that we're looking for is the beginnings of salvation. So hard because it is such a nebulous beginning. It's such a, yes.
You say it should be God, and then God and the man, and then the man and the woman.
Right.
And I believe that. And I suppose I feel frustrated.
Because he's not...
Because in an essence, it sort of depends on the man to bring out
the good in the
good
woman.
woman. And if the man can't find that, I'm not saying that he can't, but if he can't...
He's here, isn't he?
And is that why I feel the frustration?
Yes.
There's nothing that I will really be able to do.
Yes, there is.
Is what confuses me.
You can stop being frustrated. You stop resenting him, because it isn't true that it wholly depends upon him finding himself. If you believe that it wholly depends upon him finding himself for you to become a better woman, then you will be frustrated because he might not be there for you ever.
I worship him like God, and I don't anymore. And I think he feels that difference.
Yes, good. But now you're giving him a little...
And it was rejection in a way, even though it wasn't. It felt like rejection.
You mean it felt like rejection to him?
Yes, and I think he would say so too.
Yeah, I understand that. But now that you stop worshiping him as a god, which men want women to do for them, right? That's part of their rebellion against God.
I feel detached from him in a different way than I ever have.
That's good. That's very
healthy. But not
healthy.
in a negative way, and it might sound negative, detachment.
No, it's not. You're not emotionally involved. You're unemotionally involved. It's the way he should be with you.
But for our marriage to work,
it could only work that way.
We both have to be that way.
No, it takes two to tango. If you don't tango, he can't. He has to sort of stand there, looking at himself, and that's your woman's way of helping him to see. See, the trouble is, ever since the original sin, woman has this hold over man's mind. Man likes that because it provides some kind of relief. He encourages it for that relief and for his ego taking, right? Pleasure taking. A sense of worth and evolution depends on that. But ever since the fall of man, man has wanted... Oh dear, I've lost the train of thought. Try again. Ask me the question again.
Well, I just thought of something else that has... Like when someone is rude to you, what you teach in the tapes, if you can genuinely forgive them and show them that understanding, they can almost see the truth. They can just see it.
You got it. It's brought it back to me. You see, in other words, ever since the fall of man, woman had the one-upsmanship, the hold on man's brain, so that he never really could be again what he should be for all women. Women have the power to keep men down, and they do so often for the sake of that power. Don't you see that? They don't even know how to let go of men. They don't know how to stop being that to men which women shouldn't be. They don't know. But you're waking up now. You're becoming, for the first time, the light has descended into you, and you're becoming a new person, and you can't enjoy the relationship that you once did. And for the first time in your life, you've stopped worshipping him, you've stopped anesthetizing his brain, and now you're setting his brain free. You're setting his mind free to know himself, so he can be himself for you. See?
And I like it.
You like that, and what you're giving him is a breathing space. And that's what women have to do with men, to give them a breathing space. That's the hard, see? That's the hard part. Can you do it? Well, but to the degree that you can do it, you're finding God without a man. You understand that?
Yes.
Because you're loving him more than yourself. You're loving what is right because you're doing it not because for selfish reasons, because your marriage could fall apart. You know what you're doing right now could be viewed in rather detrimental light. And you know he could walk off and take another woman because you don't play the game, somebody else will. But you're willing to risk that, aren't you? Because you love him. See? One day he'll see that.
Oh, I've seen it already.
You've seen it already,
Yeah,
see?
we get along great.
It's a miracle.
It's a miracle, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what every woman needs to do is to give a man but there's another part of the breathing space. Even though he isn't that way for you right away, don't be in a hurry. Give it some time. Because if you're in a hurry, you start to pressure him. When you start to pressure him, you make him try to be something, choose to be, compel him to be, whichever, something he can't be by choosing and being compulsive about.
It's easy to rebel against something.
Right.
Like that,
He'd rebel, he'd conform, either way he wouldn't be the man you wanted, right?
Come home drunk just out of spite.
So what you have to do is be patient. Right, you have to be very patient.
Love's mad.
And you mustn't be angry with him for not being. So you see little signs of him when you pull away. He starts to tease you and tempt you and pinch your rear end to get you stimulated again. You know, all the little things that men do, right? Purposely be irresponsible because it knows it upsets you, and when it knows when you're upset, you're good for a little sex. See, ego support again. Purposely irresponsible. Because that upsets women. Men failing upsets women. When women get upset, their sensual nature, the feeling sorry for men syndrome sets into motion through sex. Follow that?
Oh, yeah.
So what you have to do is that you just have to be very patient. And don't be in a hurry for him to be the man for you. And one of these days, very interesting, you're going to become a beautiful woman. And you're going to help him look at himself. But when he does look at himself and become the kind of man that you would have always wanted to marry, then a strange thing will happen. Guess what that strange thing is going to be? You're going to become a bitch all over again. And you know why?
Why?
Because you're married and he has to work his manhood out with you. Now he's found his manhood, he has to work it out with Eve. So God pulls away some of that direct communication he has with you. It's going to work just this way. As soon as he finds his strength, you're going to start being bitchy and witchy and giving him a hard time for years to come. Because without that, he needs you to test him. He needs you to try him so as not to find him wanting, but to find him gracious, patient, calm, loving, so that eventually love and respect for this quality that you've tried and evolved in him. You're the bull, he's the matador. All of a sudden the bull becomes tamed and falls in love with the matador. And they live happily and ever afterwards. The marriage of the bull
Won't it
and the
diminish
Beauty
that?
and the Beast. No, it
Will
won't.
diminish? I mean, as
Then
you
it will
become
diminish.
more aware,
Yes,
you
no,
say,
no.
"Well, I'll keep bitching and then I'll be nice."
No, but it won't be that way. You'll be grateful. Deep down inside, you'll be secretly grateful for him. You won't stop trying. You'll get better and better and better and better at being a person and less of the witch. But you will start to try him, because you need to try him to find out where he's coming from. There's no virtue, there's no claim to virtue without temptation, the Bible says. And it's true with everything. There's no up without a down. There's no courage without danger. Is there? It cannot be one without the other. He just can't suddenly become a man and that's it and you love him. How is he going to be a man? Being a man is how he relates to you. But if you're perfect, don't you see? He's got nothing to practice on. So there's hope for you. Got it?
Yes.
I lost my train of thought, but it took, it's sometimes a little complicated to weave in and out a principle and then lay some foundations and come back to sometimes the line of thinking. It happens to me sometimes, so forgive me, Father, for I know not what I do. Anybody else? Does that make it plain to you, ladies and gentlemen? Now, I mean, where would I have been without a witch for a wife? And what use? I mean, I am serving a purpose. She's serving a purpose by giving me a hard time. I become a better man. And then I'm serving a purpose by becoming a better man, but from saving her from herself. Do you see that? And then eventually we love each other. See, I began to see that I'm 60 years old now, and I begin to see, now here I am going along with this woman I've married for 35 years, and she's just one of my kids. How nice that is. I mean, she can be mean and witchy and nude and confusing, but I'm just like her dad. That's what she wants me to be anyway, because after all, what is woman? But she's called woman because she came out of man. Woman is man's daughter originally. That's why every woman is looking for the father she's never known. But the trouble is, every man is looking for the mother he's always known. And that's the problem. Either she becomes my daughter or I'm going to become her son. One of the two. One of those arrangements is most unsatisfactory. See? Now you understand the whole riddle of existence. Send me money and I'll stay on the air. No, I really mean it. We've got to stay on the air somehow. And this is a very light-hearted discussion. I mean, it can really get you going, the audience, I know. But I'm really making the scripture come alive, aren't I?
Yes.
That's what I'm doing. It's putting a life in it. Thank you very much for supporting our program. We are off the air as from about 3 weeks from now. But if you keep sending in the Missoula, maybe we can change it around. Thank you very much, and join us in the next program.